Welcome to Nightmare Echoes. Listen, scream, and embrace your horror obsession. In this episode, Jesse's here to talk about Watcher. What led to the inclusion of the security guard scene? What is interesting about the movie Julia goes to see? And did you notice the mannequin heads placed in the background? If you'd like to follow us on any of our social medias, the links are in the description. Next week in the podcast is The Last Voyage of the Demeter. But until then, a movie that will have you wanting to learn a foreign language, Watcher. Hello everybody, welcome back to Nightmare Echoes. I'm your host Elazar. I'm joined again by Jesse. Jesse, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Cool. So today we're covering Watcher 2022, starring Micah Monroe. It was directed by Chloe Okunu, written by Zach Ford and Chloe Okunu. It had a budget of $5 million and made, unfortunately, only $3.2 million. So it did not make its money back.
It's unfortunate. I didn't seem bad enough to merit that.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Anything you want to say about it before we start?
Not really. Let's just go into it.
All right, sounds good. So the movie opens up. We get Micah Monroe's character who is playing Julia. And she's in a new city because they have moved to Bucharest, which is the capital of Romania. In the cab, it's her husband's with her, Francis, and the cab driver is speaking Romanian. And the cab driver asks her if she has any family in Romania, but she doesn't speak the language, which I feel like might be a slight problem for her in this entire movie.
Yeah.
The cab driver talks about her in Romanian, and Francis tells him to take it easy. She asks what he said, and he jokingly says the cab driver hates her. And the cab driver said, "No, I called you beautiful," which he says, "frumosa," which is my bad attempt at that.
Yeah.
And she repeats it to learn the word.
I love how they have some good devices in this movie to try to make you feel more vulnerable with the character, and one of those is the no subtitles on the Romanian, right? Like,
yeah,
they put you in the same position as her and being vulnerable and not being able to understand.
Which is interesting because you bring it up that I was listening to the commentary, and they did a test screening beyond the wishes of the writer and other people working on it. They did a subtitled version, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
They also said it doesn't work when in Romania, people in Romania were watching it because they understood the whole time what was going on.
Yeah.
Right. Which is funny. But yeah, that after that test screening didn't go well, they got their way and were able to remove the subtitles so that the movie worked better. So they get to the building they're located where they're going to stay at, and the woman who is there is very excited that they've arrived. Julia can't understand them like most people in this movie. They're in apartment 27, and for some reason the lights do not work, but the lamps do. Francis is impressed by the size of the apartment, and also I wanted to note that it has a massive window and high ceilings. The woman is worried that Julia doesn't like it, but she attempts to tell her the only word she knows, which is that frumosa.
Yeah. The windows being so huge is kind of weird, right? Like, I mean, it doesn't have a great view. Who
It doesn't.
would put these enormous picture windows facing just a freaking broken down apartment, right?
Yeah, so the apartment next to them doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it was faked. So they found this beautiful apartment that didn't have the apartment next to it, and they had to build this fake kind of structure to make it look like it was.
Yeah, because it didn't make any sense.
It didn't.
It does make sense for the aesthetics of the movie, right? Because they're trying to make you feel even more vulnerable with those giant windows. Right?
Exactly. So the woman keeps talking to Francis very excitedly, and it takes some effort for Francis to get her to leave. She says she wonders why the woman thought she wouldn't have liked it, but Francis says that she goes around smiling all the time, so he doesn't understand either. She wonders if he feels that she is like a grinning idiot, and he says that she's only a grinning idiot around him, and then gets onto the couch and they start to make out. And then the camera zooms out, and we keep watching from outside these massive windows. Francis is taking off both their clothes, and I can't help but to think that anyone in the building across the way can just watch them as they start to have sex.
Yeah. And I think, is it the next scene where it starts raining, or is it already raining?
Yeah, it does in the next one, yeah. We get the title card called The Watcher, and then the next night it's raining.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting that they have this scene with the rain coming down and the light is out, and so you've got the lights from across the way, and they're all distorted by the rain. And I thought that was so cool looking. I wondered if the reason that they had the lights be out was just to make that scene look cooler.
Yeah, maybe. It also supplies a scare later.
True.
But yeah, I think it's filmed really well. I think they did a good job with that. She looks across to the left and sees another apartment before looking up and seeing a man across the way, staring right back at her. Though his apartment is very dark, you can barely see a silhouette of him.
Well, and he's so still, right? That
Mm-hmm.
like at first I wasn't even sure. I'm like, is he a cardboard cutout? Like he doesn't move. I don't even know if it's a real person.
Right,
You
it's
know?
a Home Alone
Right,
tactic.
or if it's like a corpse, right? I have no idea at that point.
Frances wakes up and asks if she can't sleep. She says that she can't, and she apologizes if she woke him up. Though she's so quiet, I can't see how she would have woke him up.
Yeah.
He asks her to come cuddle, and she does. She asks him when he's leaving for work, and he says pretty early, and she asks him to wake her up before he leaves, and he says that he will. Then we cut to daytime. Her phone wakes her up, and it's a picture of her asleep where Francis is saying that he couldn't bear to wake her up because she just looks so peaceful.
And I feel like this is already planting the seed that he is unreliable and useless.
Yes,
Right? That he does
right.
not do what he says he's going to do.
Right, but in this instance, it seems like a playful, innocent thing.
Right.
But you're right.
It's already starting to be like, you can't rely on this guy. Right.
Yep. When she gets up, Julia is listening to some form of Romanian 101 while unpacking her clothes. Then she hears her neighbor. She thinks she hears a scream, so she lowers the audio, and then the woman is laughing, so she knows that everything is fine. Julia is walking out in the town while listening to that same audio on her wired headphones. The audio is teaching her to say, "I would like to see a movie," which kind of makes me think maybe that's why she went to the movies later.
Maybe.
Because we don't see it, but maybe she got to practice. I want to go see a movie.
Or maybe just because they're filmmakers, they want to plant a seed in us that we should all go watch lots of movies.
Oh, that could be it too. You're right. She stops at a coffee shop, and the man comes over speaking Romanian. And she tries her best to order, and she gets close enough. The guy laughs, but helps her correct her sentence. On the way home, she has purchased some yellow flowers and pauses to look up at the window where the guy was standing the night before. That night, she's laying down to sleep and opens her eyes to see the same guy is at the window watching her. The next day at the Bucharest metro, she takes a subway and goes to a building to check out the beautiful architecture. Unfortunately, as she takes a picture, the guard starts yelling at her to chase her out of the building, and she doesn't understand what's going on. She's not sure if she's not supposed to take a picture or it's not supposed to be there in general, but she runs out because she can't understand him. This scene was not originally in the script. This happened when the director was scouting locations, and she pulled out her phone to take pictures, and that actual man started yelling at her, "You can't take pictures."
Oh, wow.
So when she explained to them what they were doing, they were trying to find a beautiful location to put in a film. Not only did they get the film there, but they cast that guy to play the same role that he did in real life because he didn't have to act.
That's awesome.
She stops by a little shop that sells porcelain figures and picks up one of a little vampire. Back at home, she pulls out her key only to find that her door is open. She looks in, and the landlady is there with the maintenance man, and they're there to fix the overhead lights, which takes some effort, but she understands that. Like, she points upward. She's like, "Oh, the lights. Okay, I got it." Later that night, she has the vampire figure in the kitchen, and she is changed into a fancy dress. She has 2 glasses of wine out, but Francis has not returned, and she's drinking alone.
Once again, he's unreliable. He won't help us. He won't save us.
She looks outside to see that it's snowing now. She goes to the window, turns off the lights, and looks across the way, and she again sees the man watching her from the night before. The light comes right back on as Francis is now home. He's curious why she's standing there in the dark, and she says she was just people watching. She asks how was work, and he says exhausting but good. He sees the vampire figure and asks if it's for him, and she says it is, and it's a little silly, and he agrees, but he loves it because he's Romanian.
All Romanians love vampires, or all Romanians are vampires. Ooh.
I think that's the joke right they're making. We watch from outside the window as he gets her coat, and we see him taking her out. They walk in the snow, and he gives her a flower, which he says is a symbol that spring has arrived. But I thought that was the groundhog. We hear sirens off in the background, and that's when they notice they're walking up on a crime scene. The scene kind of reminds me how Guy and Rosemary walk up to a crime scene in Rosemary's Baby.
I was just about to say, like, when I watched it, I'm like, my first thought is, oh no, somebody had a devil baby. You know,
Right. Julia asks what is happening, and so Francis asks the woman standing there, and he translates to her that she's not sure. She makes eye contact with the guy in the back of the ambulance who is covered with a blanket, and Francis leads her away. The next day, she's flipping channels and comes across the news report from the night before, but can't understand what they're saying. Francis walks into the apartment, and she calls him over to look at the TV. They show a picture of the woman, and she translates that they're saying the last time she was seen. The guy that made eye contact with her from the night before is reported to have found the body. And Francis looks at the next thing they said. He has this like disgusted look at his face. And Julia asks him how she dies, and he says that they didn't say, which
is clearly not true. Once again,
right.
Unreliable.
He walks into the bathroom and tells her that his work friend and his work friend's wife will be there at 7 p.m. Then he adds that he can't figure out if Simone likes him or thinks he's an idiot. And every time he gets close, he just shuts the door in his face, like Diane Keaton at the end of The Godfather. He then notices that something is wrong, and when he asks, she tells him that there's a guy across the street that's always looking over here. He asks, looking how? And she says that every time he looks over there, he's just standing at this window, and it feels like he's just staring right at her. He asks which window, in which she tells him he can't see anyone. She tells him you can only see him at night, but that doesn't mean that he isn't there now. She tells him to forget it. He tells her if she feels uncomfortable that she should tell him, and she changes the subject now, saying, so you're Diane Keaton now? And he jokingly says, that's exactly what I said. He laughs, and then we cut to dinner later where his friend and his friend's wife, who is not Simone, because Simone is their boss that we meet later. I never caught the names of their friend. Are all speaking in Romanian.
Yeah, which is incredibly rude.
Yeah.
Like everyone at the table speaks English.
And that
they're all just choosing not to speak English. I was just thinking, that's so rude. I would be so angry.
He apologizes, switches to English, and they start talking about work. His friend tells him that he just needs to make a better impression on Simeon, which Francis says sarcastically, that's a really good idea. Then he tells him not to get the word Chinu confused with Si Chinu, and they laugh as they have to explain it to Julia that he meant to say, I would fight for you, but instead he said, I will torture you. Then the man pulls out some smokes. They ask if it's okay. Francis says Julia quit a few months ago, but she tells him that it's okay. Then the woman brings up that Julia's an actress, and she says she used to be, but she's reevaluating life. Then Francis brings up the crime scene that they walked into the other night, and they all revert back into Romanian. And as the man is saying something, Francis says, bullshit. Julia wants to know what, and no one wants to tell her. So she asks if she needs to leave so the grown-ups can talk.
Yeah, really. He sure doesn't like telling her things.
He doesn't. Then the woman says that they are saying that the woman had her head cut so deeply it nearly fell off. So she was almost decapitated. She tells Francis that he didn't tell her that, and he swears that the news report didn't mention it. They go on to say that it mirrors another attack a month ago where another woman had her throat slit, and they're calling this villain the Spider. Although they say that in Romanian. So she gets up to start doing the dishes, so they all feel free to just keep talking in Romanian and not in English, because she's gone now. She walks out of the apartment to take out the trash, and she meets her neighbor. Her neighbor asks her something in Romanian, and she just walks by saying, scusi. But when her neighbor speaks English, she gets really excited. And I would too. Like, finally someone willing to talk to me in English.
Yeah.
Her neighbor's name is Irene, and she asks if Julia can hear her. Julia misunderstands and says, yeah, your English is fine. And Irina explains, no, I mean, in my apartment. Can you hear me through my apartment?
And I misunderstood the same way at first.
Yeah.
But after she says it, it's like, oh, yeah, obviously that's what she means.
Right. So she says that she can't, and then she asks the same question back. Irina says that they're actually suspiciously quiet, and she loves them for it. But she tells her to just bang on the wall if they're ever making too much noise. The next day, Julia is walking and stops at a newspaper stand that has an article of the woman that was murdered. Back at the cafe, she has her laptop out and is doing a Google search of the victim. She finds a video of a woman with a blurred out face who recounts when she was attacked, but the killer didn't finish the job. Instead, watched her, and she felt like for hours. Julia is walking, and we still have the voiceover of the previous victim, who says before it happened, she felt like she was being followed, as if someone was always watching and following behind her, even when she was alone. Julia turns to the man behind her, but when she stops, the man walks past her and crosses the street without even looking her way. So she shakes it off. But since she stopped there, she notices that right there is a cinema pro who is playing Charade, starring Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. So she goes in to watch. So Micah Monroe, do you remember the other movie we watched with her?
No, what was it?
It Follows.
Oh, okay.
In that movie, they go to the theater in the beginning to watch Charade, starring Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn.
Fascinating.
Right, which the director says was a complete coincidence. She didn't mean to do it on purpose, and she's kind of fascinated that she says that movie must hold so much power that people want to put it in movies.
Apparently.
But this character has been in 2 movies where she goes to the theater, and in both of them she watches the same film.
That's fascinating. What I noticed was that the movie, there's no Romanian subtitles. It's just in English.
Oh, yeah, that is weird.
Isn't that weird?
That is.
I don't know if that's really. I mean, maybe in Romania people really do are just assumed to speak English and enough that English movies don't have subtitles. I don't know, but it was
Yeah,
surprising.
that's weird. But while she's in there with some popcorn, she's looking around because, rightfully so, she has this feeling that someone's watching her. Then the man, the watcher, goes and sits directly behind her and starts getting really close to her and almost breathes on her neck. So she jumps up, freaks out, and runs without finishing the movie
Yeah,
and
who wouldn't
leaves.
at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
She
She really picked the wrong week to stop smoking.
You're right, exactly. How would that have helped?
Just because it seems like she's kind of going through withdrawal from cigarettes the whole time too.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's a background theme in the movie. She keeps like she's about to pick up the cigarettes again,
Right.
Because she's so stressed.
Yeah. She goes to the supermarket. She says she wants to buy cigarettes, but then before she pays for them, she says, never mind, she's good. She grabs a basket and starts to walk around the store, and that's where she notices that the man has come into the store with her. So as she moves around, he keeps seeming to come into the same aisle. She kind of frantically tries to hide in the store and eventually breaks a jar of pickles. Then she runs to hide back to a place where only employees would be at. And that's when the guy comes over and stares at her through the window. Just then an employee comes in saying, what are you doing back here? But in Romanian, she asks if there's a back way out and he points and she leaves that way. Later that night, they're eating takeout and Francis is talking about work. She tells him that the man from the movies that followed her to the supermarket, and Francis wants to know if he said anything to her. He can tell that she's bothered, but she tells him that she just needs to sleep it off. Then he tells her the good news that if he ever showed up, that she has a big, strong man to protect her, which I want to say he's never there.
Absolutely bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
He's never there. That comment makes her laugh, and he says he'll pretend not to get offended by the fact that she laughed at that.
Well, and she's like, I mean, he didn't even go look for the watcher guy. It's nighttime now. She told him he can only be seen at nighttime. He doesn't even remember.
Yeah.
Like.
Right. He thinks it's BS. It's a fantasy.
Maybe.
Then he asks if she would want to go back to the supermarket because they could watch the security tapes, and we cut to them the next day asking about the tapes. He speaks to the employee in Romanian, and he tells him that they thought she was trying to steal something. She said she was just trying to hide from the man, and they reluctantly let her view the footage. While they're viewing the footage, Francis doesn't believe that he is staring at her, saying that it is possible that he's only staring at the woman that broke something or the woman that is staring back at him. She takes his picture on the phone, then we cut to her looking at that picture later at night.
Yeah.
The next morning, Francis tells her that he has to be at dinner with some clients, so he will be late. She spends the day watching people enter and exit the building across from her and falls asleep. Later that night, she calls him, but he doesn't know when he's going to be back home. She's staring out the window, which thank God has curtains now.
Yeah, I know, right?
When someone knocks on different doors, as she walks close to it, eventually the knocking comes to her own door.
It's very frantic knocking. It's very, very upsetting.
When she doesn't answer, the knock seems to get louder. Then the score gets very low and yet ominous. She opens the door to a woman frantically speaking Romanian and doesn't understand that Julia can't understand her. She does eventually say the name Elvis, which just confuses Julia further.
Yeah, really.
But quickly, Irina shows up and tells her she's looking for a cat. She tells the woman she hasn't seen the cat, and Irina says that the cat is trying to escape that woman all the time. And that woman's name is Eleonora.
I didn't catch her name. That's good to know.
Yeah, the commentary helps a lot.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, everybody was credited as character names.
Interesting.
But
you'd have to speak Romanian to know.
Right, exactly. And IMDb didn't have pictures of a lot of these people.
Oh, wow.
So that didn't help me figure out who they were either. Julia thanks her, saying that Francis normally translates, but he's still at work. Irina asks if he's a stripper because he's working at 10 p.m., and she says no, he's in marketing. Then Irina asks...
That's also ironic.
It is, right. Yeah. Then Irina asks if she would like a drink, and Irina wants another drink, but she says it's less sad if she has company.
It's like we're watching Rosemarescu Babyescu, right? Like it's just the Romanian Rosemary's Baby at this point.
In Irina's apartment, she takes a moment to look around and see that she has the same big windows from her apartment. Irina offers her a drink, and they toast in Romanian, and Irina gets excited when she says that she had a good accent. She admits to trying to learn because she wants to surprise Francis one day just by saying something out of the blue. But I think she would need the language to survive.
Yeah.
When Irina asks...
And she does start learning it. I mean, she has
Yes.
been learning it, and this becomes important later on. It becomes a key moment.
Oh, yeah. When Irina asks, we find out that Francis's mother is Romanian, but that he grew up in the U.S. And also in the apartment, it's interesting. On the shelves in the background is like a mannequin head. So they were like representing, like we put decapitated heads hidden throughout this movie.
Oh, that's funny.
Which is funny. But a lot of them were cut out.
It's too bad.
Yeah.
That's a good...
Irina tells Julia that she had a similar situation when she moved to London to do ballet until she injured her knee. The first few months there, not knowing English was terrifying and lonely. Julia can relate to the lonely part, but Irina says that she has her husband, and she can tell that comment bothered her, but Julia says she's fine. That's when knocking comes at Irina's door, and it turns out to be her ex. They argue through the door, and he ends up leaving, hitting the door one last time before he leaves. Julia says Irene's ex sounds scary, and Irene says that he just sounds that way. Irina says that he knows not to cross the line, and Julia says, what if he does? Irina mimes that she will shoot him, and Julia laughs, until Irina asks her to open the drawer and the coffee table, and inside is a gun, which was a gift from her ex, which now...
Was her ex Chekhov by any chance?
I got his name later, because he stops by later.
Yeah, that was just a reference to, it's very much a Chekhov's gun.
Oh, okay.
Situation.
Yeah, right. That's funny. He now seems to regret gifting it to her because now she could shoot him. Irina says that the gun makes it easier for her to tell people to go fuck themselves, and Julia says she should be telling more people that. She tries to teach her how to say it in Romanian, and they have a laugh. The camera zooms out, and we watch from outside their window. Julia goes back to her apartment and hops down on the couch, and is happy because she got to spend time with a friend. Then she looks at the window. She can't resist peeking. She pulls back the curtain, saying, fuck this. Then she says that he isn't really looking at her, and to test it, she waves. She relaxes when he doesn't wave back, but then right after she relaxes, he does wave back, so he knows.
Very slow scene.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, actually, the whole movie is very slow, and that's probably why it didn't do so well in theaters in part. But
Sure.
I mean, it's such a slow scene, and it's like there's so much suspense and tension in that scene, and
Yeah.
But it's like at the same time, I was thinking like, why would you wave to him?
Why would you wave to
I would
him?
have flipped him off.
Right? There you go.
Like, you know.
There you go. Exactly. Like, how dare she?
Yeah, really.
Later, Frances is home, and she's sitting up in bed in the dark, smoking a cigarette. When he asks her what's going on, she says that she saw him again. He can't see, so he turns off the light. She says that he's there, so Frances throws him the bird, which Julia is not excited about. So Frances flicks him off.
Right, yeah.
She says she wants to call the cops, and Frances asks if that's really necessary. We cut to her talking to an officer who is taking her statement. The officer doesn't seem to think he has much to go on and thinks this isn't really possible, that she could see the man across the street in the dark. She tells him that it isn't normal. He's always looking at her, and she can feel it. The officer says they can go over there and talk to the man and tell him that it isn't polite to just stare at people through the window and ask him if he would stop. She doesn't want to go there. She thinks it's not a good idea, but Frances says he'd like to go take a look at him. While he's over there, she texts Frances to see what's going on, and we could see that he starts to type, but then he deletes his message.
And they never show us, you know?
Yeah.
And they never show us, and he never tells her. And so we never really know what happened over there, right? Like,
right, exactly.
It's very, very mysterious.
When he gets back, she obviously wants to know if it was him, but Frances says that even if it was him, that he lives in the neighborhood, it would be crazy to think he wouldn't shop at the same stores. She says that she needs him to stop rationalizing it away, and he twists her words saying, you want me to stop being rational, then makes her feel like she is being crazy. He says it's not what he meant, but she is stressed, in a new country and alone all the time. She cuts him off by telling him to stop talking to her like she's a fucking child. She says she can't stay there and wants to leave. He wants to know if she means to go to a hotel or fly back to New York. Then he asks her to tell him what she needs. And she says she needs him to fucking believe her. There's so much passion in the way she says it.
Yeah. It's a good performance.
After a bit longer, he asks what he can do to help. And she says nothing and walks into the bathroom, shutting the door. We cut to the next morning where she's showering. He's packing a bag to go on another trip. He tells her that he's heading out, but she doesn't respond. I did notice that she showers with her necklace and earrings on. And I was curious, do other people do that?
I wouldn't think so. It's weird. I don't know.
But she wears this necklace the entire movie.
I didn't notice that. What necklace is it?
It's like this gold chain link necklace thing. And the only reason I know, besides noticing in the shower scene, is that the director said it was a problem because when they go to film the final scene, she wasn't wearing her necklace. And so they digitally added it on
Oh, wow.
to make it work with the character. Because if she wore it the entire movie, why would she take it off in this scene?
Right. Yeah.
The next day, she buys a pack of cigarettes, and when she's walking, she sees him going into the subway. Then she starts to follow him. So this movie, she follows back.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking like, yeah, this is following a killer down a dark alley, is absolutely a fantastic survival strategy. That's what you do if you want to survive and reproduce.
Right. She goes further down into this building, and she finds this guy sitting in a chair. He speaks to her Romanian, but he understands English when she asks, what is this place? He says museum, and she's confused that there'd be a museum hidden in this place. Yeah. And he's like, no, museum is a club. And she asks if she can go in, and he says yes. Inside, electronic music is playing, and there are strippers in glass booths, as well as some that are on top of tables.
It's actually kind of a neat concept for a strip club, right? That it's made to look like it's a museum, but it's a museum of people.
Yeah.
The exhibits, right? Like, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's a clever idea.
Yeah, I like it. She walks around and sees that he is prepping a mop and bucket, and this is where he works. He must feel her eyes on him because he stops what he's doing and turns to look her way, which plays out in slow motion, and she backs away into one of the glass booths. The guy sitting in the booth behind her, in our view, gives her a quick up and down, which I thought was funny. She turns to look at him, but then the woman in the booth knocks on the glass and says her name, and it's Irina, who was wearing a blonde wig, and wow, did she look different in that wig. I didn't recognize her until they were in the back taking a break. Also, it now makes sense why Irina jumped to the idea that Francis was a stripper, since she is one. Irina can't believe that she followed him there, and Julia explains what has been happening and that he's always watching her and that Francis doesn't believe her. Julia asks if she knows him, and she says a lot of people come and go, and after a while, all their faces just blur together.
I bet.
She asks if Irina notices anyone watching her, and she says no, but that might be because she's a stripper and everybody's eyes are on her.
Right, exactly.
Julie asks if she just sounds paranoid, and Irina says, let's just hope you never have to find out.
Yeah.
Then adds, it's better than getting raped, strangled, and dying with the words, I told you so on your lips.
Yeah.
Then a man comes back to tell Irina that she needs to get back to work. Irina thanks Julia for looking after her and says she will do the same for her. That night, Julia is brushing her teeth before placing a chair under the doorknob for extra safety. She lays on the bed with a laptop, then goes to put it away in the living room. On her way back to the bedroom, she sees the chair still under the doorknob, and then she sees that one of the pillowcases from her bed is missing. She starts to freak out as a pillowcase is placed over her head. The scene is intense. As she struggles, she's being strangled, and she's punched in the face, which makes her nose bleed through the fabric, and then she wakes up. It was all a nightmare.
Yeah, that was a pretty awesome scene.
Yeah, it was done well. Now awake with both pillowcases back on their pillows, she hears a thud from Irina's place, and we see a visual echo of her nightmare. She knocks on the wall and calls for Irina when she hears Irina scream, and there's a crash. So I wonder if she had the nightmare because she heard Irina getting attacked while she was sleeping.
Could be.
We cut to her banging on Irina's door, which wakes up the neighbors. A lot of people show up, including the owner of the missing cat and the landlady. One of the neighbors suggests that they call the police, only because I understood that word in Romanian, and the landlady opens the door. The landlady asks her in Romanian and says there's no one there, and everybody seems to just walk in this woman's apartment. She said the screaming came from the bedroom, and when they go in there, they find Elvis the cat who had knocked over a lamp. The cat owner gets really excited, and then they all leave. The next morning, Francis is back, and the landlady is yelling at him. He tells her that the landlady is saying that she doesn't want troubled tenants. He apologizes for working so much, but she says that is his job. He says that he knows that she moved there to be closer to him, and she jokes that maybe she always wanted to live a life alone in a city where everybody thinks she's hysterical and she scares her neighbors. He tells her that he does have to go to work tonight, but that they'll both be there and they'll have cocktails, and asks if she's still up for it, and she says she is. After he leaves, she calls the museum asking if they've heard from Irina. Then she hears a knock and goes out to see a man knocking on Irina's door. He says that he was supposed to meet her after she worked last night, but she didn't show, and he admits that's normal for her. Julia asks if he would know where she is, and he thinks she's just inside. He also said that he tried to call her, but he assumes that she's just ignoring him. So Julia asks for her number so she can try as well, and it does sound like the ringing is coming from inside the apartment.
This is kind of, this whole turnaround is a really interesting thing. This was interesting to me, this idea that, they made us scared of the ex a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Before. And they implied that the gun was for him. And now suddenly we're on the other side of it, and we've joined forces with him to look for Irina. And suddenly he's like more reliable than the protagonist's husband, right?
He's a very helpful guy. He's a gentleman.
It's really interesting turnaround. I like when movies do that. They change your perception of somebody and remind you that, the way you perceive someone in one scene might be different from the way you perceive them in the next.
So he's ready to leave, but she's asking if he would be willing to help. And they end up in the apartment across the way. They take the elevator up. He asks why she's doing this, and she says she just has to know if it's the same person. She says that the cops won't do anything, and he says the cops are useless. On the floor, she stands down the hall, and he knocks at the door. He knocks twice, and he says someone's inside, but there's no answer. Then he gets a phone call and says he has to go, but she asks him to try one more time. He bangs louder this time and yells to the person inside, and then leaves saying he tried. She asks him what he said, and he said he just told them to stop bothering her and that she shouldn't worry. It's probably a guy that has a little crush on her, which then, I like him, but then he downplayed her paranoia, not paranoia, her real fear.
I think he's trying to make her feel better there.
That's true, too.
I don't think he's intending to belittle her. I think he's just trying to be like,
I know.
Don't worry, everything will be fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. After he leaves, she walks over the door and knocks lightly. An older man answers. She says she's sorry and walks away. On the elevator, she sees the watcher coming up the stairs. As she's taking the elevator down, he watches her as she goes.
This whole scene is very tense because, this building is really like enemy territory, right?
Yeah.
You feel very vulnerable. There's that elevator they go up and down, and it's so narrow. It's unbelievable how narrow that elevator is.
Yeah.
And then it's got like mirrors in it, right? And it's so weird. And when she's going up the elevator, like the loud dings of the elevator every floor on the way up, it's really cool. It punctuates that sort of suspense, and I just thought that was a neat scene all around. And then now they're kind of swinging us the other way and being like, well, maybe she is crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe you've been siding with the wrong person again, just like you thought the wrong thing about the ex,
Yeah. Back at home, she's sitting in front of the mirror when a knock comes at the door. Francis gets it and calls her over. At the door, there's a police officer's back, the same one, and this time he's with the man that has been watching her. The officer says that Mr. Weber made a complaint that she's been staring at him through her window, following him around, and that she had her friend threaten his father. He goes on to say that he remembers him from the earlier complaint, and the officer would like them to agree that it was all a misunderstanding, then they can go about their lives. Mr. Weber agrees and goes to shake her hand. She is reluctant, and I don't blame her, but she does shake his hand. She tells Francis just to tell him when they're gone. She's sitting on the bed, and he goes to check on her, but also shows her a news article about how they caught the spider, and that the guy that had found the body when they walked upon the crime scene was the one who had done it.
And this feels like the peak in the other direction, right? Like they're putting the final nail in the coffin of, okay, you were all wrong all along. She's totally just crazy. How foolish you were for believing her, right?
Right. We find out that that guy has been in prison before for rape, and they found the clothes of the victim in his apartment. Then they go out for drinks for work, and this scene is intense.
It's an awesome scene.
Yeah. Francis introduced her to Simone and Simone's wife. His other friend is there, and they're talking about the big news. She thinks Francis got a promotion, but he's talking about how they caught the spider. Then we find out that Francis has been telling them about the trouble she's been having with her neighbor, and you can tell he feels guilty, and she feels as she's been betrayed by him going and telling everybody about her fear. Then they all start to joke around about it, and Francis doesn't understand that she's been picking up more Romanian. So when he makes a joke at her expense, she asks him what he said. He said it was just a work joke, but so she asks his friend. Simone is the one that says maybe they need more champagne because they want to kill the conversation, but she won't let it go. She repeats back in English the part she understood. At least she has the spider, and she's like, she has to figure out the rest of the sentence. And she goes, what, to keep me company?
Yeah.
She walks out, tries to give her drink to the waiter, but ends up crashing his tray, and it breaks 2 glasses. Francis runs after her, and she asks if he's going to tell her that she can't take a joke. And he says he's tired. And then he explains that he's tired of feeling like this because she can't let go of some fucking fantasy.
This whole scene is like just crazy. I think this is the peak. Like, to me, this is the climax of the whole movie, even though it's
not.
Yeah.
Well, in a little bit, that subway scene.
Yeah.
That we're going to get to here. She stands on the stairs crying. He waves her off like she isn't worth his trouble and goes back to the party. She goes outside trying to hail a cab, but it doesn't stop for her. Then she walks to the metro. While there, she hears someone coughing but doesn't see anyone because they're hiding behind the pillars. On the train, she closes her eyes for a minute. Then when she opens them, Mr. Weber is sitting on the train but a bit further away from her. She is worried and moves to get off, but that's when the train has an announcement, but she doesn't understand it, and then the doors don't open. She sits back down and hears the footstep of Mr. Weber come over and sit across from her. He says that it's probably an animal and she doesn't understand. He tells her that sometimes the delay is that there's an animal on the tracks. She asks how long it will take, and he says to catch a dog, not long if you're fast. Only a few minutes, even though it might feel like a lot longer. And she tells him thank you and you're welcome. And somehow this feels like a metaphor and she's the dog.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. He's suddenly so friendly, you know? I think she should have him over for tea.
That's what it is, yep. She then asks why he is following her, and he says that he doesn't control the trains. Then he says, let me explain, and says that he takes care of his sick father all day. So when he's bored, he goes to the window and just looks at people going about their day. He says he knows it's a sad hobby, but no one has really ever noticed it before. He says that he feels like he's going to become old, dreaming about pretty girls, but then one finally looked back at him and waved. He says that he thought she was saying hello, but then when her husband showed up with a police officer, he didn't understand what he had done that was so bad. Then she followed him, and then she came with that man who cursed out his father. The whole time he's saying that, she keeps looking at this shopping bag with a smiley face on it that may or not have a head in it, because it's like the shape of it. We're just wondering if he's carrying around a head with him.
The camera just focused on that thing, too. It's making you, like, stare at it and, like, try to figure it out.
He says that he felt when he involved the police that it would be the end of it, and then says that he felt like he really needed an apology, and so she whispers, I'm sorry. That's when the train starts moving again. She gets out at the next stop, and he stays in there. We follow her home and watch as she takes her shoes off, turns off the lights, and starts to pack her clothes. Then she hears music from Irina's apartment, so she stops what she's doing. She finds that the door is open, and the music inside is very loud. She walks in and then finds Irina's body in a chair but without a head. That's when Mr. Weber's shopping bag, which she couldn't stop staring at on the train, goes over her head and she has to fight to breathe.
Thank God her friendly neighbor is there to distract her from that awful corpse and give her some attention.
Oh my gosh. We see Mr. Weber hit her over the head and the movie goes black. She wakes up and she can see him through the bag, but only his silhouette. He says that he left holes in the bag, but if she breathes too hard, she will hyperventilate. He tells her not to scream, and she starts screaming for help. He goes to choke her and tells her that Irina screamed and that they had to hide in the closet when everyone showed up. He says that for a moment he swore she looked right at him, and imagine how awkward that would have been.
Mm-hmm. It would have been. He's right.
He takes off the bag, tells her hello, and we see that he has a big knife at her throat. She then hears Francis in her apartment calling out her name, and she starts to yell, so Mr. Weber slices her throat. We see her on the bed. She starts to grab the bars to try to make it to the headboard, and he pulls her off the bed. We cut to Francis in the apartment, which hears the thud. He walks over to the bedroom and sees that she was packing to leave but didn't finish, and he says, fuck. And at this point, I'm worried that if she were to disappear, because he sees the suitcase and knew she was going to leave, he might think she just said, fuck the clothes, I'm going to leave without it, and he would never know the truth of what really happened to her. So back to Julia, who's crawling for where she knows the gun is, all while holding her throat. She reaches for it, but seems to run out of strength and just lies there. Mr. Weber lies down next to her and holds her hand, and the way he positions his other arm is like he's mirroring the way she's laying on the ground. It's very artsy and creepy.
It seems like he's just watching her die.
Yep. He gets back up to see the pool of blood from her neck is growing on the floor. He cleans the knife on his shirt and looks across the way to an open window where a little girl saw him do this, and I'm like, oh, fuck no.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Weber washes his hands of blood, and we see Francis call her phone. He can hear her through the wall, and he slowly starts to walk over to Irina's apartment. That's when he sees Mr. Weber zipping up his jacket. As Mr. Weber starts to walk away without closing the door, Francis yells, "Hey!" while approaching him. At that same exact moment, Mr. Weber is shot in the back.
So the last moment when you finally think the husband's going to do something. Nope.
Right. Mr. Weber turns around, and he is shot in the front. Francis stands there not understanding, and then we cut to Julia inside, standing there, lowering the gun, watching him die. The woman from apartment 28 opens the door and then runs to call the police. Julia walks out with a slit throat and just looks at Francis, and the movie ends.
I wonder if, was she faking dying before, or did she just get a miraculous surge of energy somehow?
She might have been. Either way, maybe wait until he walked away so that she can get to the gun. Because if she's too weak, he would just take it out of her hand.
Right, yeah. I guess that would be smart.
Right. And then at that end, when she's looking at him, I'm reminded of the words from Will Smith in iRobot. Somehow, I told you so doesn't quite say it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm wondering, is the next scene that we didn't see, her, just walking out, giving the husband the finger, just walking out,
Yeah, they theorized in this in the commentary, saying some people really were hoping that she would just shoot her husband, too.
I was wondering if he was going to... I was wondering that, too. I was thinking she was going to shoot him.
So, and other fun things from the commentary, the only scene that wasn't shot in Bucharest was in the cab scene. They shot it in New York, which is where the film was originally set to be in New York. But they got a better deal to film in Bucharest, so they changed the plotline for her to be in Bucharest. And I don't know how they would have done the language thing.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I don't think it would have worked as well.
I mean, in his defense, the husband was right. She really did have the spider to keep her company.
Oh, my gosh.
I also think it's kind of cute that the spider's name is Mr. Weber.
Yes, you're right. You're right. The rain in that scene in the beginning, you were talking about how good it was. It was all digital.
Really?
Yep.
Well, he did a great job.
The snowstorm, though, was real. They said a freak snowstorm came in, and they were worried people would wonder, wait, it's raining and then it's snowing the very next day? But she said it was real. I mean, where the snow was real, and it was a freak snowstorm that they didn't expect. So
they just left it in.
They said that they hoped that their plot was good enough that no one noticed that it was raining and snowing and really cared.
That's not that strange. I mean, sometimes it does rain and then snow. What?
Yeah, sure. The actress that played Irina was tested positive for COVID right before she was supposed to start shooting, but because they loved her so much, they rearranged the whole schedule to accommodate for her. But her headless body was played by a different actress wearing a green thing over her head, so they could green screen it out because they needed to make that scene fit without filming her.
I want to play headless body. That sounds like an easy role.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts where people are like, that's their dream goal is to play a dead body in a horror movie.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Right?
So, yeah, I think I felt like the movie was, like I said, it felt like it was really slow, but I also felt like it worked.
Yeah.
What it was trying to do artistically, I think it did. I thought it was interesting, kept me interested the whole time despite being slow. And the ending was a little sudden and anticlimactic, but that's also kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I thought it was fine. I'm disappointed to hear it was a financial flop.
Yeah, me too. While the yellow and white bags with happy faces are big in New York City, they're nowhere to be found in Romania. But that was a part of the original script that they liked a lot, and so they decided to keep it in. Did you have a favorite part?
Like I said, definitely the part where she finally uses her Romanian to understand the single most important sentence for her to understand in the entire movie. That was good.
Yeah, that's a really good scene. Besides the obvious ending where she shoots him and it feels like, yes! I thought the subway scene for me was really intense.
That was also really cool. Yeah.
Is there a scariest scene for you?
Ooh. See, I was unprepared for these questions. I think, the subway scene was scary, but I feel like her following the guy, to me, was the scariest scene. Because that's the dumbest thing. Who would do that, right?
Right,
You're out of your mind to do that. And you have no idea what's going to happen, right? That's... Yeah. I would never do that. I would never in a million years follow that guy.
Yeah. The only thing I want to say about it is it did really good at doing the horrible husband in a horror movie trope. It really nailed it.
I agree. I think they did it very, very well.
Yeah.
And the performances were good. They were not excessive, but they were energetic at the right places.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks, Jesse, for covering this. This has been Nightmare Echoes. We have episodes every Monday. Please follow us on Instagram. We also are active on Reddit. Thanks.
Thanks, and stay alive.
Bye.